This is from Variety. Headline is Rings of Power star Ismael Cruz Cordova says Amazon hired an on-set therapist to deal with racist backlash. This is from Mark Malkin. And I guess he appeared on Malkin's podcast that he runs just for Variety. But he says, so this is what Malkin says. The therapist was brought on board when production resumed. You got to scroll down a little bit more, I think. You have a related stories thing? That's weird. I don't have that. Yeah. That's weird. That's different. Maybe that's because I have I'm using Brave. The therapist was brought on board when production resumed shooting after pausing during the pandemic. Cordova's character Arondir is the first person of color to play an elf on screen in the Lord of the Rings universe. And then Cordova says it hurt. Says the backlash, it had a psychological and mental health impact. That's something that I'm very, very open about so that people understand that what they do and say online really hurts people, really has an impact on us. So if anyone's actually like saying anything to this guy, like I think that's wrong, but I haven't seen any evidence really of that. He hasn't provided any evidence. Again, he's just saying this has happened, but he hasn't actually shown any evidence of it happening. And I don't know if this is uncharitable or not, but I'm at the point where like you need to show me the evidence for me to believe that this is happening. We've seen there's been too many Jussie Smolletts out there where they clearly it was an absolute, complete, and utter lie. Yeah, I think Middle Earth Storytime has something there too. He's definitely not strong of character if he can't deal with people saying that his character should not be in Lord of the Rings, because it shouldn't, because there were no black elves in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. They just didn't exist. They're the Hired Dream. They're the Hired Dream, and they're black, and they do exist, and they should be shown, but we didn't see any of them in Rings of Power. Yeah, Mephisto X says, call him BS if this actually happened. Show the receipts. 100%. Show the receipts. At least with Moses Ingram, she had the tenacity to share at least 4 examples. And I don't think they were really good examples, but at least she tried to show examples when she was claiming she was the victim of racism.
Well, and also remember,
his phone got hacked.
But who's watching this to be doing all of that, right? There's 67% drop off from day one. So who is the audience that is making up the group of people so very mad about this? Because if there's a small audience, that means an even smaller portion of it is hate watching it, right? So who are these people? If they're not that numerous, they should be pretty hard to root out, pretty easy to root out, right? You'd want to make an example of them because they're so small and so annoying, right? Nope.
He goes on and says here, he says his phone got hacked. I had bank account attempts of being hacked. My PayPal got hacked. My friends got messages. I got death threats. I got things mailed to me. People found out my address. It was a lot of that. Again, zero evidence, doesn't provide any kind of evidence that this happened. If your PayPal got hacked, you should have at least had some kind of email communique that like that there was a hacking attempt on your account. Like your banks send those out. If I'm traveling, my bank might be like, is this really you? Like, please confirm, like tap in, like to confirm that this is you down here. Cause they are not sure if that's actually you. Cause you're not in the same location where you usually are. Like that is normal. They send you emails saying like, is this really you? You should have some kind of evidence that this actually took place.
I'm just checking the news. I'm just checking the news to find out if there was any report of it before now. And no, there was no mention of his hacking, PayPal hacking, bank account problems. None of it was ever mentioned until this interview.
Right here.
Now let me just step back and say, Amazon has had a lot of problems recently with security. They haven't had full-on breaches, but they've had to notify customers that there have been minor breaches in security. So here's what it really kind of sounds like to me. They're taking advantage of someone trying to steal his identity, right? Because they can't come out and say this, because if somebody sues, they've got to report, they've got to back it up, right? So they've got proof of his account being hacked, but it's like some Russian guy that's totally unrelated to this and got his password off of a Minecraft server. You know, it's that simple, really.
Yeah, I think that.
and the random effect of that. Now, the death threats, that doesn't make any sense to me. Who cares this much about Lord of the Rings to want to kill somebody? That's the opposite of what Tolkien's writings are about. So if you like Lord of the Rings enough to get that mad, you're not going to go kill somebody about it, because the whole reason why you like Tolkien's writing is because he doesn't tell you to do that.
Yeah, it's the opposite, right? It's literally a battle of good versus evil.
Exactly. And what's evil? Hurting people because they have different ideas. He's not an evil eye on top of a volcano. He's just a weirdo on camera. So it doesn't track that people who like Lord of the Rings would want to hurt people. That doesn't connect.
No, I mean, the most of the comments I saw are the paraphrasing of Tolkien, of, I think it's Frodo to Sam, basically saying evil cannot create; it can only twist and warp the good. And that's mainly what I've been seeing. Obviously, I've talked on streams, I've covered on articles that like he shouldn't have accepted the role because he doesn't fit the actual description of the characters from the lore. Amazon's own racial quotas show that they should be casting actors that are accurate to the descriptions of the characters of the novel, video game, whatever they are adapting. They don't follow their own guidelines, but that's very different from, that's not racism. Saying that he shouldn't be, like, there aren't black elves, that's not racist. That's just a fact. Because again, the Haradrim do exist. They are black, and they're in
walk it back to something that makes the SJWs mad when you bring it up. Are there white Wakandans? No.
Right.
Sorry.
Exactly.
That's kind of a thing. That's the reason why it's Wakanda, right? Yeah. And there are white characters that interact with Wakandans, but there are not white Wakandans, or at least not ones that have risen to prominence to become main characters, for instance, object-centered characters in stories. Let's put it that way. So this is what people need to understand, is like the elves being a certain race, a certain depiction of a certain race. That's fine, because there, as you said, there's this other group that deserves to be shown because they play an equal role in these stories. So these guys, again, flexing their racism. There's already a group established that has their own unique history and culture. Forget it. Nobody's going to care about those people. We got to make it the elves. That's the only way they'll care, is if it's the elves.